To everyone. Happy evening or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Alyssa McConkey, and I am the Chief Program Officer at EarthForce. I am so fortunate to have a wonderful team of people, and so I am going to let them introduce themselves as they will be helping with the chat functions and with questions and sharing the screen and so on. So Taylor, would you like to introduce yourself? Come off of mute, please. I know you can't share your screen.
Hello, everyone. Taylor here, Colorado Program Manager for EarthForce. So excited to be here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Taylor. Sarah, can you introduce yourself and come onto the screen, please?
Good morning or good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah. I work in close to Washington, D.C. area. I live in Pennsylvania, so mid-Atlantic region of the United States, and I work on the EarthForce team. Good to be here.
Thank you. And Sarah will be helping with the chat. And so if you have questions, please put them in there. Riza, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rai. I'm Program Manager at EarthForce as well. And I work across the whole state. So I work with different states in implementing environmental action civics here. And it's great to be here with you.
Thank you, Rai. So I see people are already putting messages and questions into the chat. Thank you. You can add your questions there, or there is a Jamboard if you have used Jamboard before. There is a link here to a place that you can post questions. So go to page 5. Page 5 of the Jamboard has questions. Up top, you'll see a box and it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the box at the Jamboard, you can go to 5 and put your questions there. So you can also put your questions in the chat and we will happily add those to our spaces. And please do feel free to interact and share comments and questions as we go. I realize that for many of you, English is not your first language, and I only speak a little bit of Spanish, but nothing else. So we will do our best to communicate. I will try to speak slowly. If you need me to slow down or repeat, please let me know. And my great team is here to help as well. Finally, if you need to move your body during this time, you need to take a break, get some water, any of those things, please feel free to move as you. So EarthForce is a nonprofit in the United States. That means that we do not like money for profits. So we are a charity organization. And we consider ourselves the home of environmental action civics. You all have used the term participatory and those kind of languages, participatory citizenship. Those are all EarthForce type themes. We call this environmental action civics. Okay, so environmental action, or the work that we do with environmental action civics, how do we do that? We work with educators and we work with young people, and we basically train them in this model. And our goal is for young people to take civic action on environmental issues that they care about. And I forgot to add one thing. If you are not on mute, if you could please mute yourself for this portion. It's helpful if there is background noise. So as we're sharing slides, if you could please just make sure you are muted, that is helpful. Thank you. So again, our goal at EarthForce is we want young people to take civic action on the environmental issues that they care about in their community. Okay, so our process is a type of participatory environmental education. It is a tool that educators can use, all types of educators. We were talking earlier, there are, formal educators, informal educators, educators that train adults. There are many different types of educators. This process is a tool that anyone can use to facilitate environmental action civics in partnership with young people. I just also want to acknowledge, we know that there are black boxes that keep showing up on our slides, and we're sorry, it's a technical thing that is frustrating, but hopefully you can see everything clearly. So again, EarthForce, the process, the work that we do, we have a model that is a process. We are not talking about a project. A project is one part of this process, but I will talk in a moment about that. But that is what we're doing here, and we call the work that we do Environmental Action Civics. Again, this is a type of participatory and community engaging environmental education. Next slide. So what do we mean by this when we talk about environmental action civics? I thought maybe to listen to a video of our CEO, Vince Meldrum, to share what is environmental action civics and to give you some examples. So he speaks very fast. We will try to put on the closed caption, but you can access this video later on YouTube if you want to review later. But here we go, we'll play it for now.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vince Meldrum. I'm with an organization called EarthForce, and we use a program, or we use a technique that we call Environmental Action Civics. You might say, what is Environmental Action Civics? And that's what we're going to talk to you about. We're going to give you some information on what it is and how it works, and even provide you with some techniques that you could incorporate into your own programming in the coming years. And so let's first start with a definition of what Environmental Action Civics is. And at its base, Environmental Action Civics is just a different way to teach about the environment. It's a technique that gets young people to learn really deeply about environmental issues that are impacting their lives and right in their very community. But in addition to that, it also provides them with some skills and knowledge and motivation so that they can take what they've learned and they can apply it to the very city that they've had, that they can become civically engaged in trying to solve problems. So for instance, a few years ago, we were working with a group of young people in Wentzville, Missouri, and they became really interested in recycling and wanted to increase the recycling rates in their community. And so what they did is they identified that there was a new law in their community that incentivized recycling, and they worked with the folks who had created that law to change it so that people who were living in multifamily dwellings could also participate. So you can see the essence of environmental education there and the essence of civic education. The young people identified an environmental issue they cared about, they studied that issue, they come to understand how the systems had produced the problem, and then they did something to solve it. So it's that great melding together of environmental education and civic education to create what we call action civics. And when you do environmental action civics, you're really doing essentially four things. Young people investigate a problem in their community. They identify within that investigation what they want to work on, but also they identify what are the policies and practices in the community that keep that problem in place. They then develop a plan to try and solve that problem, and then they act to try and solve, to solve that problem in their community. So for instance, a number of years ago, some young people in South Carolina became really interested in a bridge that was being built across a river there in their community. And they wanted to make sure that that bridge was bikeable and walkable, and that there was a way for young people to use it, not just for cars. And so they petitioned the local city council and eventually ended up working with the mayor and convinced them that one of the things that they should do was to change the design so that more people could use the bridge in other ways, other than just driving with them on cars. They called their program, I Can't Wait to Bike the Bridge. They opened it a number of years ago, and now at this point, 2 or 3 million people a year use it for those recreational purposes. And so it's a really great, as you can see, it's a really great melding. It's a way to bring together some things. When young people do this, there are 3 essential experiences that they need to have. First, they've got to choose the project that they work on. It can't be selected for them by somebody else. It can't be something that's assigned. It's got to be something that they really choose. Second, they've got to debate it with other people. And when they debate it with other people, that deepens their learning, but it also helps them understand how the issue operates in the community writ large. And then third, and perhaps most importantly, and for some of us, this will be a shock, young people need to advocate to people in power for change. The reason they need to have those 3 experiences is because if they have them when they're young and they're still forming their habits and their understanding of citizenship, it substantially increases the likelihood that young people will be environmental citizens when they're older. You know, some of you might have heard this story. It is getting a lot of play right now, but there was a young group of people, a group of young people here in Virginia, where I'm from, that were interested in indoor air quality. They had found mold in their classroom, and they actually are doing a presentation here at the conference. And in finding that mold in the classroom, they wanted to make it so that no other young people had to face that problem. And so they studied the mold. They became a really deep understanding of how it got in there. It's because of climate change. Water had gotten into porous materials that the school had been built with. They identified a change that they wanted in the school district, so they petitioned for that change, but they were unsuccessful. They continued to talking to people, and eventually they met a state senator named Senator Evan, who worked with them to develop a policy that was then put before the Virginia State House and State Senate and was passed. And that law just went into effect, and it requires every school in the state of Virginia to both test for mold spores and to inform parents and teachers about its existence, but then also to do remediation. And if you watch the presentation that those young people have done for this conference, one of the things that one of the young women who participated, her name is Veronica, who participated in the thing, when I asked her, what's really made a difference here, and why has this changed for you? And she said, the thing that made a difference is that my educator understood that the problems in my community were something that was important to me. And I got to select from those problems the thing that I wanted to work on. And if I hadn't had that opportunity to select that, I never would have worked so hard. And if I never would have worked so hard, I never would have had the chance to work with Senator Evan to try and change that law. And if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't understand the power that I have as a citizen. So think about that for a minute. She wouldn't have understood the depth of environmental problems. She wouldn't have known how to solve it, and she wouldn't have carried that forward. And so what Environmental Action Civics does is brings all these experiences together so that when young people encounter problems, both now and when they're older, they'll have the skills, the knowledge, the motivation, and the mindset, the belief that they can make changes in order to make changes.
Okay, so Vince talks very quickly, and he gave like 3 or 4 stories and examples of environmental action civics. Many times in environmental education, you all probably know there are common things we do. One thing is that we may just decide, I want to plant trees, or we want to, as a class, to clean up trash. That is wonderful. But sometimes it is difficult for students to connect the issue and the solution. So they are cleaning up trash, but if you ask them why they're doing this, they may say, I don't know. So oftentimes we just do a project. Or sometimes in environmental education, we just do the study. We do water quality testing, we do surveys, we do some research, and then we do no action with it, right? So sometimes we just do environmental or do some research and we don't do anything with it. At Earth Force, next slide, our goal is to do all of those things together. So we want young people to start with investigating their community and end with taking action. And we want them to understand the connection between all of those things. If you can mute yourselves, please, that would be helpful in the time being. And if you have questions and such, you can put those in the chat. It just helps in these big groups to have everyone muted. Thank you. All right, so what kind of action are we looking for when we talk about this environmental action civics? This is a big slide, but I highlighted some spaces where you can see the big thing that we want at EarthForce and with this work is we want community level change. So for a young person to say, I will turn off my lights or I will recycle, that is good. But what we really want, I think, is for action to take place at the community level. And so asking people who are in decision-making spaces and asking for people that are leaders in a space to make change, that is a big part of EarthForce. So that ask for change and the community level action are key parts for us. So we want people to start out with understanding their community, to end up with action, and for that action to really be community level action. All right, so we're going to move into our process here, but I want to pause and just see, if anyone has comments or questions, can you put them in the chat, please? And we can, or you can go to that Jamboard that we shared earlier and share your questions on page 5. So just going to pause for a minute and drink some water and make sure everybody is good. Great. Okay. So this is, as on screen right now, this is our 6-step process. You can see that this is to guide educators to environmental civic action in partnership with young people. Okay. So we have these 6 steps, and I'm just going to walk through with a very quick example of these different things. I hope everyone can read that. It's small on my, oh yeah, I just need to zoom in. This is all also on our website. If you all go, Sarah has been sharing places to get started with EarthForce. You can access all of our information. It's all free and open. Our goal is just, again, for young people to take civic action in their community. So if you use our tools, let us know how they work. So yes, so EarthForce, as again mentioned, is a process. It starts with discovering by community inventory. So I'm going to give you a quick example as we roll through. This example is very different from the ones Vince talked about. So in the video you just saw, Vince was talking about young people that changed indoor air quality legislation at the national level, the state level, young people that advocated for bike lanes on a bridge. This example is very small, and it's young people who advocated to get hand dryers instead of paper towels in the bathroom near their classroom. So very small example. So here we go. So step 1, we are discovering. So that is when we explore our community. So in this example, these young people decided that their community was their classroom and their like immediate school area. So they began to look around their classroom and see what issues they had. They noticed that in the hallway, there were paper towels always in the hallway. So they said, this is an issue for us. They made a list of the different issues that they saw, maybe like a dripping faucet or maybe some trash, like other things that they saw in their community or in their classroom that was their community. So they investigated their community. Then in step 2, we decide on an issue. And so in this classroom, they got together and they voted, and they did like, there's many different voting methods. You can do like heads down, thumbs up. A lot of those voting methods are on our website, so you can check those out. So they decided as a group that they wanted their issue to be that there are paper towels in the hallway. So in step 3, we discover again, and we look at the policies, the practices, and the people that are connected to our issue. So in this example, young people said, why are there paper towels in our hallway? What's happening? And they discovered that people were going into the bathroom, washing their hands, paper towels would get like brought out into the hallway. And they had a small trash can in there and it was overflowing, and they just discovered that the school had only had paper towels at that point. So it was the policy of the school to have paper towels versus hand dryers. And so they did all this research, and then they decided in step 4, you decide on an action that you want to take. And so these students worked together with their educator in partnership, and they said, what strategy can we use to change this problem that we see in our community, in our classroom? And so they decided that they would put together a presentation to the principal and to the maintenance staff about why they wanted a hand dryer instead of paper towels. So that was their strategy. So if you can see in step 4, you decide, you create a goal and strategy statement. So that's what students in this example did. They decided on their strategy. They probably used some criteria-based decision-making. If you haven't heard of that before, there are a lot of tools for that on our website also. It's a great way to look at multiple options and make a choice in a democratic way with students. So when we get to step 5, we're actually taking the action. So what did the action look like in this example? In this example, young people presented they had like a PowerPoint and a presentation, and they said, to their principal, hey, we really see an issue with all of this like paper that we're wasting. Here are these hand dryers. They are much more environmentally friendly. We won't have paper towels everywhere. It's easier for maintenance. And so they had the principal, the maintenance people there, and they did this presentation and they asked for change. So that is a big part, again, EarthForce community level change. In this example, the community is the school, but asking for this community level change. So students asked for this change, and they went on break for winter and came back, and there were hand dryers in the bathroom. So they succeeded, and then they celebrated and reflected, which is step 4, and they were able to reflect and decide, or reflect and celebrate their accomplishments, right? Even if those accomplishments don't turn out, like you don't get the change that you asked for, students are still very excited to have had the opportunity to find things they care about and ask for change. And it's really about building those skills in young people, right? And so I hope that story helped you to kind of like see this process in action and think about this like discovering, deciding, and then acting and concluding. So what does the research say about this? Again, these are kind of, let's see, these are small on my screen, but just take a minute to kind of read through these. This is research that is based on 20 years of EarthForce working in the work that we do with Brandeis University. They are our evaluators, and we are constantly looking to say like what's working and what is not. So this type of participatory approach really helps to build environmental citizens. Many of you mentioned this, like that I can do this feeling, or this like future action, and strengthen civic participation. So you'll see here, there's a lot. If there's anything particular that stands out to you here, feel free to share that too. But there is research that we've done and then tons of research beyond that just kind of helps us to understand that. So Taylor, I think we are a little bit shorter on time than I thought. I'm wondering if we want to maybe come back to those videos if we have time at the end. If you guys are, if there's a Q&A and we're having some time, can we come back to those? Yeah, so we have 2 videos. We can share those with you all later. There's one from a youth perspective and one from an educator. I think this would take up about 10 minutes, which is a good amount of time. So I want to hear more from you and answer your questions. And so I think we'll move on now, but we can share those videos with you to watch going forward. So thanks for your flexibility in all of this. So what are the benefits to this? We just looked at that research. I heard from you all. If we were to watch these videos or when you watch them later, you will see that for educators, it gives them training and support in guiding environmental action civics, and it connects them to their community. For young people, they're working on a real issue. So this is not just like climate change at the global level. They are working on an issue in their community that is real and meaningful to them. So they see flooding every day, or they see pollution, or they can't breathe, or their family member died of cancer from a plastics kind of, situation. So there are so many, we want students to be working on real issues in their community. And that is a benefit of this type of participatory model. It's also an opportunity for young people to be heard and for young people to be change makers in their own community, right? We talked about that action and spurring that seed to move forward with action. So for the community, obviously, one more second there, Taylor. So the other huge benefactor is for the community, we would be promoting a culture of preparedness against environmental issues, or just like resilience, right? And that even as adult decision makers, that there are benefits to that youth adult partnership. There are many times that I hear community members say how much they benefited from hearing from the young people in their community about problems and issues. So we consider young people experts in their community because they have a lived experience that is very real. All right, next slide. So a huge part of this work, right? We have our environmental action civics. The Earth Force process is a way to do that. There are many tools on our website and many ways to work through this process. One key that you cannot live without when you are doing environmental action civics is youth adult partnerships, right? And so this is not what I'll say. I'm going to say like what they are here in a second, but what it is not is a person standing up on a stage saying, blah, 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 here's what you should think, here's what you should know, I'm going to tell you everything. This is about young people and adults working together to look at the community, to identify problems, and to take action. And this is like a shared responsibility, a shared power, and it aims to increase youth voice and leadership. So the same things that you all had in the Jamboard talking about empowerment and agency, that a big part of where that comes from in this model is youth adult partnerships. Next slide. So why youth adult partnerships? We talked about a little bit, but we're cultivating environmental citizens. We are cultivating problem solvers, and we are wanting young people to walk away from this experience with a sense of purpose and with agency, right? Next slide. So you all are bought in. You say, yes, yes, tell me how. So let's get into some of the strategies and the tools to do this. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we invite students to participate. We ask them to share their thoughts and ideas, and then we listen, right? If you're going to ask students what they think, listen, process, and take it into account. So creating spaces in your programming where you can pause and you can say, what do you think? How would you like this to look? What do you as young people want to do in this space? Even just doing that in small bits helps to create the culture or the experience for young people that helps them feel like they are heard and listened to, and helps to build the foundations of youth-adult partnership. We also want to ask youth to share in decision-making power. So we touched on this a bit, but the idea is that when we are deciding on the issue that we want to focus on or the strategy, we are not saying, great, here's what we're going to do. We are asking young people, and saying, so here's what we came up with. What do you all think? Like, what do you see as, what's meaningful to you, you know? So engaging them in decision making. And again, there are many tools on our website and such as well. We also want young people to work on real problems, right? And so one of the strategies for having really good, authentic youth-adult partnerships is to be working on something that you both can see and experience, you as the educator and young people, and be able to be dealing with real problems in the community. We also want to engage the people, the stakeholders, or the decision makers, or those affected by the issue into our problem solving and into this environmental action civics work. And when we do that, I'm telling you guys, young people get so excited that old people, adults, listen to them. Like, they are so pumped when they get to talk to a person in power and say yeah, they heard me, they understand me. That is a powerful experience. That is one of the key things of this participatory model. So if you're going to engage in these youth-adult partnerships in this participatory way, ask young people to ask the questions of the community, to reach out to the community and such. And then we want to offer opportunities for young people to evaluate each other and provide peer feedback. So we often do that as educators, and we say, let me tell you how you did. Let me tell you how you could do this differently. We encourage you to say, hey, young people, talk to each other, and you decide how, what feedback can you give to your peers? How can you support each other? So those are some kind of broad strategies. We're going to share with you now some key tools that we have. You can find these on our website, but these kind of dig down. So we did the whys and some strategies, and now we're getting into some specifics. And so these are a few ways that you can really engage in that participatory youth-adult partnerships piece. So first up, we have community agreements. So if you haven't seen these, again, you can access these things on our website, and these will be shared. So community agreements set the stage and say, I, as an educator, a facilitator, a teacher, I agree to do this. And as a student, they agree to do this. And you set the foundation for the expectations of your work, okay? So we call these respect agreements, community agreements. It's just a really good way to be clear that this is a different way to work together. And then you can just refer back to it constantly. We also have these great decision-making strategies and different tools. So these are listed here, but Sarah is going to share a space where you can access these through EarthForce. We have tons, and hold on one second. Blah, blah, blah. What's not mentioned here is the criteria-based decision making. We have a whole lesson on that online, but there are many ways to include young people in decision making. So we encourage you to look at these and other ways. And even if you are not getting to action yet in your programming and you're just getting started with this, try to offer young people the opportunity to vote and make decisions in your class, in your program, whenever you can. It really helps to build that youth adult partnership foundation. Next slide. We also do a lot of empathy mapping. This is a great way to get young people to start thinking about the people in their community, what they're thinking, feeling, and hearing, and getting them prepared to reach out to those people. We have some really great, some additional mapping activities. There's asset mapping and power mapping too, but just asking young people to participate with you in understanding the community. And then one big thing you'll see at the bottom, they're highlighted, consider asking young people, youth, what their opinions are, and having them, looking at them as stakeholders or as maybe not decision makers, but as people affected by the issues in their community. They are experts of their lived experience, right? And so this is a great tool to help us understand what students are thinking and feeling, but also for students to use to help think about what their community decision makers are thinking and feeling. This is a really cool tool. And finally, we have action planning tools. We have many of these on our website, but as you're getting to that like action space, sometimes it's difficult to be able to kind of plan that action and to be clear about the action you're going to take. And so in this action plan, you know, we want a clear problem to solve, we want a clear goal, and we want a clear strategy. And our tools, some of these tools and others that exist out there, are great resources when we get to that participatory space. And so check those out as well. It's a great way to put young people in the lead when we are asking about, or when we have them help take the lead on action, when it's not just us saying, here's what you're going to do, here's what you're going to do. We instead say, all right, you are the committee that is going to take care of the email to the mayor. You are the committee that is going to take care of creating the presentation. You are the committee that is going to track progress, or like everyone having roles and ways. It really puts young people in the driver's seat.